this is Shubham Tiwari.
Hi, this is Nilangan. I run marketing for Salespanel.
And we welcome you to Salespanel discussions, where we speak with experts in B2B marketing, SaaS marketing, ABM, and revenue operations. This show is brought to you by Salespanel. At Salespanel, we help businesses qualify their inbound traffic and help them understand what is an opportunity for them. It consists of helping them score leads and visitors using our real-time scoring models and helping them check their target accounts on the website. So now, moving ahead with today's episode. Our guest today is Madhav Bhandari, who is the head of marketing at Weflow. Madhav is an experienced technology marketer who was Hubstaff's first marketing hire, where he helped grow their revenue from $200,000 to $5 million in ARR, which amounts to 15 million nowadays. So, and also he has led marketing at Bonsai and Close, which is a high volume sales CRM. Madhav has been educating and advising companies on early stage marketing for a decade now. He's also the founder of Early Stage Marketer. Welcome to Salespanel, Madhav.
Great to be here. And thanks for the amazing introduction.
So one more thing about Madhav. Madhav is a remote work evangelist. So Madhav, how are you liking this, shift to, let's say, in physical setup now, because people are moving away from pandemic. So how are you convincing people to work in the remote?
Yeah.
From remote?
So I mean, for me, things never changed. So I basically started working remotely in 2013. So I mean, it's been a long time, pandemic or no pandemic, things kind of remain the same. So even if offices are opening up, for me, it's always kind of remote first. And for me, office was always more like a place to go and collaborate and socialize, but not really to get to work done. So I mean, I don't know, but I think one thing that's definitely changed is so I basically ran a blog for many years. It still is that it's for remote marketing teams. And the funny thing is that, before the pandemic, there was a lot of questions coming hey, how do you set up a remote marketing team? How to set up remote employees and everything. And now that's become redundant because everybody's, remote. Everybody knows all of that, right? So that was I think that's the reality now. So
yeah, I would also like to add that I've been remote from the very first day, even before Salespanel. So previously, people were you're working from home. Now it's very common, so nothing special. Everyone is doing that. So I'm in the same boat.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I will jump to the first question. It's from me. So you have been in the founding team of several sales and marketing focused SaaS applications. And how does your process usually look like, running early stage marketing and taking products from 0 to 1?
Yeah. So I think it's usually dependent on how, first of all, how good the product is, right? And sometimes I've also kind of joined companies where the product was in conception phase. So you don't even know how the product is going to look like. So then it's really just about how well does the team understand the problem, right? There's a very famous thing, it says that you should love the problem, not the solution, right? And so if they really understand the problem, really empathize with it, really understand the persona, I think that's the first thing, that makes it easier for me to all right, I think this is something that's going to go somewhere. And then it's really just about when you know who your persona is, you can then basically identify, that, how you're going to target them, where do they hang out, what messaging might work for them, basically tailor the product experience. But at least in the 0 to 1 phase, it's really just all about really understanding what your strengths are, what's your bread and butter in terms of customer, your competitive landscape, and basically everything there. And then you basically mold your strategy around it. There's no one size fits all strategy. I think it varies from teams to teams.
Okay, so you are saying that the first challenge would be to fix the product market fit, right?
It depends. I mean, sometimes companies are post-product market fit at the early stage. Sometimes it's pre-product market fit, right? So what I'm saying is that I think you need to really, really, really understand your like your personas, your target market, and you should really, really well understand what your positioning is in the market. Like, how are you different? How are you, like, for example, for Salespanel, there might be a lot of other sales tools in the market, right? Maybe with the exact same feature set, right? So what would be your way to say that you should choose us over like someone that's like 100x, right? If you have those basics right, then like everything else just fits into place.
Okay, so do you think like when starting out, like people should like these products like us, maybe like SaaS applications, we should focus on product-led growth, or like start directly from a sales perspective, revenue generation perspective?
I mean, like, what do you mean by revenue generation as such?
I mean, like sales. Some people go. I think we had this question. We wanted to ask this later, but some companies, they in the early stage they would directly go to like you should have a sales approach, sales focused approach, and some are like we should have a product led type approach. So how does a company decide what they want to do, like for SaaS products mainly?
Yeah. So again, I think it depends on the business. So like, here's a simple analogy, right? Like, so I basically there's this guy called Christopher Jans, and he wrote this really good piece, and I think it's a good framework to kind of think about, right? When you think about the road to, let's say, 100 million, right? You can basically get there with 10 customers that are paying you $1 million annually, right? You can get there with 100 customers paying you 100K. You can get there by 1,000 customers paying you 10,000, and then you can get there by 100,000 people paying you $1,000, right? And so on and so forth, right? So basically, when you think about it like this, right, then I think that's when you then start thinking like, if you just need to get 10 customers, annually, right? There's a lot of focus on like, specifically about like how to kind of, like basically like there's a very small market size, right? Because there's very few customers who'll be willing to pay you $1 million, right? So you need to like mold your strategy there. You need to like really focus on like events and, find the right stakeholder, try to contact people in a different way, right? But then if you go to the other end of the spectrum where, you need to get 100,000 users, a PLG approach makes a lot more sense, because you can't spend, salesperson's time to get like $1,000 customer, right? Like, the unit economics won't make sense. So in that case, what you'd do is, set up a product-led growth thing where they can basically sign up, get the value of the product, put in their credit card, become a customer, right? So I think that's how things have been done. And that's where I think, like, if you think of the customer LTV, right, like dependent on like how large or how small it is, I think that's where these frameworks come into place. And to be honest, like product-led growth, the name has come up in like the last 3-4 years, but like that names change, but like the same thing's been there. Like for example,
like growth hacking and others.
Correct. Right. Yeah. So it was growth hacking, then it became self-serve onboarding, and then it became product-led growth, and then something else, right?
And there's also lead routing and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, like it changes, right?
Yeah.
But I think the major market perception that's changing overall is that there's a new thing that's coming up again, like a new direction of product-led growth, which is product-led sales. And essentially what that basically says is that, if a buyer is in the market, right, and they've got, let's say, 5 solutions that they're kind of currently evaluating, right? If let's say 3 solutions are like, hey, request a demo, and then there's a back and forth on like scheduling a time and stuff like that, versus the other 2 solutions that, get you to sign up, experience the product for free, get to that point where it's like, oh, that's pretty interesting. They have a slightly higher, almost like a, like an edge over the others. And so the new normal that's eventually becoming is how can you get, the user to the product value faster? Because when someone has experienced the product beforehand, it's a lot more easier to make the sale than, spending your time on unqualified leads and people coming in from all these sources, almost sometimes doing informational interviews. So I think overall, like I think we are kind of moving towards like a product-led world. I think everyone is kind of moving towards that. But like, I think the larger question really is that like, what suits your business model, right? Depending on where, like, if it's SMBs, think about how like will product led growth really help you, basically get ahead of your competitors, increase your conversion rates, increase the likelihood of qualified leads coming into those. I think those things need to be thought about. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we are also seeing that people are now using third-party bad intent data. Basically, like for example, G2 Crowd, they provide this data on which companies are viewing which categories, or if they are seeking out your competitors or not. And like there are other companies as well, like Bombora and others. So yeah, I think we can get back to this later. I had some questions on lead routing, but I think over to you, Shubham, on your next question.
Yeah. So, Madhav, I mean, speaking about your journey now, you have been in B2B SaaS leadership roles for many years now. So, I mean, how does one grow in this role? What are some of the learnings from your journey?
Yeah. So I think it's a good question. For me, it was like always, whenever, I mean, it happened by accident, and I think it's a pro and a con for this, but like, because I was working with these companies at an early stage, like I never really had like a head of marketing to kind of guide me. I was always kind of reporting to the CEO. And so the pro is that, you start understanding things about like how to get business results faster. But then I think the con is that, like you don't really kind of get that whole leadership coaching, right? And so, I read a lot of books, I got, mentors and, worked with them and everything. But I think like really the only thing that actually worked was like, basically getting those leadership skills, right? And I think that's where like an interesting thing to kind of think about is when you think about a leadership role, right, you have to be more specific about it. Like what, like 5 years from now, like what exactly is like, where do you want to be on that leadership role, right? And there could be an example LinkedIn profile that's like, I want to be like that person, right?
Yeah.
And basically what you then need to do is like, for that leadership role, there's like a certain set of skills, right? And then there's a certain set of skills that you have right now, right? And try to map it, like, let's say if there are 10 skills for you to become, let's say, a head of marketing, how many of those do you check right now? Like you have experience in, how many of those do you not have experience in? And basically try to fill that gap. Like whichever ones you're not skilled on, try to find opportunities within your current workplace or in future companies or whatever, right? Like that's essentially you're basically defining where you want to be, where you are at, and like bridging the gap, right? And to be honest, like I've spoken about this at length in like my upcoming course, which is what you introduced, right? Like the early stage marketer. But essentially, like the gist of it is basically like bridging this gap.
Right.
And so yeah, and I think like once you actually have a roadmap of like, all right, this is the place you want to get to. I think then there's also kind of things that you need to do about yourself, which is really like learn to take like true ownership, right? Like when someone is hiring you in a leadership position, right? They're not hiring you to manage you. They're hiring you because you can manage yourself. You can like take true ownership and like get results, right? And and I think the second thing is you also need to kind of start thinking about like how can you think through critical business challenges, right? And there's lots of frameworks, there's lots of ways to think about it. Maybe it's note paper, maybe it's mind maps, maybe it's something, but like start practicing on how you can solve critical business challenges. The more you do it, the more you get into the leadership role. I think the last thing is, I mean, like, and also just kind of try to start thinking a little high level, right? Like, be able to like, like basically take yourself away from the tactical work from time to time and understand like why you're doing this, like what's the larger goal, right? I think all of these things kind of have a big impact on like how you kind of move towards a leadership role.
Yeah, I think this new thing is coming up in marketing, or revenue marketing, that's basically trying to solve this problem, like everything that marketing does, connecting that to revenue and getting back like the closed loop thing. So yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like these terms come and go, but to be honest, I heard about revenue marketing for the first time today in our call.
Okay.
But yeah, like just think of forget these terms and everything. Like just think about it, right? Like why you hired, you're in like an early stage startup, like that's the, in fact, actually, that's the beauty of an early stage startup, that anything you do has an outsized impact. You can see that impact on the business revenue. If you're working at a Adobe or a Microsoft,
Yeah.
right, you wouldn't be able to see that, right?
Yeah, right.
And so you have to take that kind of responsibility too.
Okay, so moving on to my next question, that is, so you have run product marketing for Close.io and you are currently running for Weflow as well. So you're running the marketing operations entirely. So what are your suggestions for SaaS companies that are looking into product-led growth? Like this is something that they should try out, and how do they get started? Or maybe like what is some wisdom that they should follow?
I think first is for sure, on the product led side is just, I'm going to repeat again, you need to really truly understand the persona, because then you can design the product led experience. For example, who's the product led experience being built to? Is it for the end buyer? Is it for the end user? Are those the same people? Sometimes that's not the case. Like, for example, in sales for mid-market companies, the end user might be a salesperson, but the buyer is the director of sales or somebody, right? So that's something you should for sure be aware about. Then I think the second thing is you should understand what are the customer or the user milestones. For example, from them coming to the website, to signing up, to making that first action, to putting in their credit card, right? What are those actions? Especially the activation action from someone signing up to getting to that, putting in their credit card, what triggers that? What is that action? And then basically the product led journey is really just a combination of what you do on the product as well as what you do on the marketing side, especially, with all of these emails, transaction emails, right? Or onboarding emails, and how can you get them to that action? How can you get them to sign up for the product and then come back again and, do that action, right? So I think that's those are kind of the major things. On a high level, product led really is just about getting the user to the value of the product as quickly as you can. That's essentially what you're trying to do with product led growth, right? And let's say, for example, opening up the product for someone to try out on their own self-serve, helps you improve the conversions, And so just try to see what are kind of the friction points within that onboarding experience. If you're charging for a credit card right away, right, that is a friction point. If you ask them to confirm their phone number, right, that's a friction point. If you're asking, think about all of those things to kind of make that product-led growth journey seamless. Also think about once they actually sign up, how can they understand the product as quickly as they can, not just through these product experiences and everything, but also maybe they just want to see a 5-step super quick guide within 5 minutes to understand the product, right? Yeah. So make that experience, right? The involvement of needing a demo should absolutely not be there at the beginning, right? And basically get them to that action faster. I think these are just things that to just kind of think about in your product-led journey. Yeah.
Okay. So these products like Weflow and Close, they are all targeting sales and marketing people, right? So Close is basically targeting sales people. So what are the challenges that sales and marketing executives face that you saw, and how did you implement that in your product marketing strategy?
Yeah, major challenges that you see within sales and marketing is just, I think first is that it's a very high stress role. Yeah. Right. It's very, if you don't perform, you're out. Right. And that's, and, you have to be firing on all cylinders, getting stuff done. You're responsible for revenue, right? And there's a considerable pressure that comes in those jobs, right? So you have to be empathetic about that, because that's, that yeah, I mean, that's like a fatigue that does set in into salespeople. I think that's one challenge. The other is really there. There's a million things for a salesperson to do. They don't have enough time, so they have to like really prioritize, right? Anything that wastes their time is bad for them, right? Because it takes their time away from selling. So I think, and that's where one of the things we're doing at Weflow is really just basically removing that admin work from salespeople's jobs and everything. But yeah, I think that is definitely one major thing. And then I think the last thing is like, how can you get them to close more of their end of the month, end of the quarter quotas, right? Like, how can you get them to close more deals? How can you increase their conversion rate and everything? How can you help them make more money? So I'd say like money, time, and where's the third one? It was like the tackling with a high stress job, or I'd say like the three challenges. And so I think all of these were tackled in different ways, but like I think one of the ways we had done it at Close.io was so we saw that salespeople, use a lot of tools. Okay, they use lead routing tool, a calendar event, and a calendar scheduling, and then they'd use a email marketing tool and a phone dialer, and an SMS app, and like this huge amount of things, right? And to switch between all of these tools, sign in, sign out, those things, and all of that, right? Like that used to waste a lot of their time, right? And so that's where what you can basically come, like what we did was we started coming in with like a solution that bundles everything together, cut costs, put them all together, reduce tab switching, do everything in one workspace, and also kind of like make it super quick and fast, kind of, like move through leads and like identify like which are the priorities, right? I think that was one way we would kind of position ourselves, versus the other CRMs, like there were CRMs that specialized in email and everything, but Close was the only CRM that did dialing and SMS and phone and, meeting events and everything. And then, at Weflow, our biggest challenge, that I see is that salespeople spending a lot of time on all of this boring admin work in Salesforce, right? So our aim is to reduce that boring admin work and give back that time to be able to sell, right? And we do that with like basically an app on top of Salesforce that helps them basically navigate Salesforce in a faster way. But anyway, the point being there, the positioning there is really just helping them kind of get more done and like focus on more selling, because that eventually reduces their stress on like reduces their stress of like, oh shit, I'm going to lose my job because I'm not, hitting my quota. So, I mean, these are just certain ways, but like, I mean, yeah.
So I have a follow-up here. So, I mean, you talked about, prioritizing in your role, because at the end of the day, you have to, take care of your time, your energy. So, how does a product company, pick their acquisition model? Because inbound, outbound, demand generation. So many ways. How do you prioritize there?
Go back to your personas. Think about where do these people hang out, right? It's not about, SEO is working, let's make SEO work here. Is it? But like to me, like for example, let's talk about let's take marketers for example, right? They love reading blogs. They love hanging out on Twitter and LinkedIn, right? And they perhaps love marketing meme accounts, right? There are people that hang out in these marketing communities on Slack and growth hackers and all of these different ones, right? Those are all of your acquisition mediums in front of you, right? Which works for you? Then it's just about testing. Try out all of these things, spend maybe a month, 2 months on each of these channels, see which are the ones that basically kind of think of all of these channels as like an investment portfolio, right? And you have all of these different portfolio, these stocks in your portfolio, right? And you basically have like a budget, and you basically have to allocate budget to all of these. So whichever is kind of like the lowest cost, highest return is essentially where you want to allocate most of your budget, right? And that's essentially how. So I'm like picking acquisition channels comes from your persona, right? Don't have to worry about inbound, outbound, all of these things. These are distractions. Or ways to get ideas and everything, but like ultimately, it's really just about coming back to your persona. Where are they hanging out? How can you get in front of them? What's the best way to get in front of them? And just figure out which is the one that works for you well.
So getting back to what you were previously saying, yes, I saw that Weflow solves this problem of Salesforce fatigue, and I would like to get back to another report. I don't remember exactly, but it says something like salespeople are only able to spend like 30-40% of their time on selling. Rest of that is spent on like manual work or things like that. We are also trying to solve this problem, working with CRMs. What we do is basically we help them, we help marketing qualify their leads and then automatically send them to the CRM and with the behavior data. So when salespeople are working on that, they all have the data right in front of them. So maybe we are solving similar problems in different ways. Possibly.
Yeah.
So
but that is super shocking, right? Like even I've read about that. Like 1/3 of the time selling, like that's a huge issue, right? So for sure.
Yeah, and I have seen this myself as well. Like if you have too many things on your plate, like the productivity is like really bad. If you have one thing to focus on, that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to go back to when we were discussing about different types of product-led growth strategies. Like you were saying that for companies that are like high ACV, they're selling high ACV, maybe they are trying to sell, go through a sales model. But companies with maybe lower ACV, like if I'm selling a product that costs like $50 a month, there's no point going through sales. So they can go through the product-led model. So my question is about companies that are like serving all the spectrums. Like if you talk about HubSpot, for example, I'm pretty sure they have $100 per month model as well, and $10,000 or $15,000 or $30,000 per month model as well. So how does a product-led growth company, a SaaS company, solve this problem of lead routing? Like which leads should go to sales service and which should go to sales? So how do they solve this problem?
That's a good question. So I think there's a lot of ways you can do that, but I think like the major thing to kind of think about again is like who is that ICP that you're going for, right? Like first, if you know that, like I don't know, top 5 English speaking countries maybe, or somebody within the mid-market segment with a certain employee size and a certain title, right? Once you know that ICP, then it just becomes very easy then to kind of sort through leads, right? And essentially what you can do in that case is one is that you can have like a qualification criteria, like right when you're basically signing up, which basically is like, within the onboarding, what's your role, and basically, ask them like 2 or 3 questions to identify that. And then we still like, I think ideally like take everybody through that product-led growth experience, get them to try the product, but then basically go into the leads that actually seem like ones that are like worth contacting, right? That may be able to close a higher deal. And then just contact them, right? Like say that, hey, would love to book a demo with you, if that makes sense, right? But this only makes sense if your model supports sales, right? For example, with HubSpot, for example, like at least in the past when I've worked, we used to pay like $50,000 every month. Every year. And so that's a huge account size, right? And so in that case, a salesperson spending multiple calls and like really sorting through leads and finding the people to contact makes a lot of sense, because that. But if it's going to be like $1,000 sale, then essentially it's really just, you can look at the dynamics as in like what region are they coming from? Do they have a business domain? Do they, what's like maybe enrich the data through Clearbit or somewhere and like see that what is their position right now, and then basically get them to a Calendly link. But yeah, I mean, like there are multiple ways to do that. Like for us, like for example, at Weflow, one of the ways we qualify is, do you use Salesforce, which is like a big qualification criteria for us. And then, we basically, they go into the product experience, and anybody who seems like a, potential fit, we'd personally reach out to them, have a conversation and everything. So yeah, I think that's essentially how you can figure out. There's lots of different ways to do lead routing, right? I don't think there's a right or a wrong way. Yeah.
Yeah, we are also trying one way with Salespanel. Basically, what we're seeing is that these data points, like we're talking about, like is that a company that can be a high ACV deal, or maybe they have some product usage milestones that you can see. So usually the rate is very low. Conversion rate to high ACV deals is very low in SaaS. Like most users might be in freemium or like lower tier pricing model. So what some companies try to do with a product like ours is that they set up a lead scoring model. So basically when they will target this high ACV type data attributes, and if somebody is crossing that lead scoring threshold, they would pass that on to sales. So that way the sales can deal with these high ACV deals, and the low tier deals stay in the self-service model.
That's a good approach. Yeah.
Okay, so Shubham, I think the next question is from you, I guess.
Yes. So Madhav, I mean, you clearly have acquired a lot of wisdom over the years in this particular field. So my very basic question to you is, what are your tips for laying a strong product marketing foundation? Is there a particular, of course you must have followed a particular playbook, you must have played by a particular playbook, so please tell us about your strategy and what are the tips?
I haven't followed a playbook because I think product marketing, like I try to understand it. I tried to read books about it and, joined the Product Marketing Alliance and all of that, right?
Right.
Fact is, everybody has a different definition. Everybody is, sometimes it's like, it's about launching new products. Sometimes it's driving demand. Sometimes it's knowing who you are, what you sell, how you sell. There's a lot of ways, but I think the best way that I've basically like come to terms of like really what product marketing is, it's, kind of think about it as your personal brand, right? How would you try to kind of promote yourself, right? So like think about like the first thing, how do you compete against 100,000 other marketers? How are you different that a company ends up hiring you? That's positioning, right? And that's essentially what you're also doing on the company side. How are you different from 1,000 other companies? How are you different that a user wants to try you as compared to the topical leader, right? So positioning is, I think it's an important bit. The second thing is, what's your story, right? Like as a personal thing, what's your story in your job application, right? How to get noticed. The same thing is in a company is that, what's your story? Why should we try your product? What is your vision? Like, why should we invest in your product, right? And that's essentially messaging, like giving them the value prop, giving them a reason to remember you, right? I think the third thing, again, on personal branding, is that how are you getting in front of other employers, right? And that's essentially on a company level, it's like how are you getting in front of other users, and that's generating demand, right? If you think about how to find the right roles, you can improve your success percentage to get hired. The same is like, how do you find, how do you convert more users into paying customers? So that's conversion rate optimization. And then eventually it's all about the money, right? Like how are you increasing the bottom line for your employer? And then if you compare that to your company, It's like, how are you helping the user achieve their goals, right? Or helping them make money. That's business, right? So essentially, product marketing is just all of those things: positioning, messaging, generating demand on all fronts, conversion rate optimization, helping customers make money. That's on a large
Right.
level. That's how I would say.
Right, right. So, Madhav, you have mentioned, books twice so far in this interview. So, my natural question as a book lover to you is, what are, let's say, your top two books that you'll suggest, for a person like you who likes to, who wants to emulate you, let's say.
Okay, it's like asking what's your favorite song.
Yeah.
I have 1,000 favorite songs. How do I answer that? Like, I'll just tell you the two that I can kind of remember right now. I think one is I really like the book The Messy Middle by Scott Belsky or something like that. Forgot the author's name, but basically the messy middle is all about there's a very wrong perception in the market today that a growth journey is like this, like an L-shaped growth curve. It's never. It's for 99% of the people. It's not at all like that. It's a very, you go up, then you go down, then you're flat for a couple of times, and then you go up and down, up and down. But like if you then zoom out, you see that okay, you are kind of growing at a stable growth rate. And that's essentially what, as marketers, as business leaders, as whatever, as even like personal folks, in our own careers, right? We get disheartened, when we see dips and all of that, right? And the thing to remember is that no one's path is linear. No one's path is that. And the only path that should matter to you is your own. Like, everybody's path is different. Everybody's background is different. So the messy middle is really just acknowledging that there is a messy middle and how do you navigate through it. I think that's one book that I really, really liked. Another book, I'm just trying to think what's another one. I really liked The Coaching Habit, which is kind of like the first book I had read when I transitioned from a marketer to like a manager, building a marketing team of my own, because like I said, I never had any formal training. And you have to be a good coach to your team members. You have to earn their trust and everything. So The Coaching Habit was actually a very good book to like be able to coach your team members to be able to like do things themselves and like really help them elevate in their careers. I think that's another good book.
Correct. Some wonderful references and motivation. So, Madhav, I mean, since we're at the fag end of this interview, last couple of questions. What future industry advances in product-led growth are you the most excited about? Do you see PLG as a combination of growth hacking and product marketing that has existed for years, or do you think product-led growth has something to offer that these two are lacking?
I think they're all different. Like, for example, growth hacking largely is about bringing more demand into your top of the funnel, right? Like, it's really just doing all of these different things to get people in. Product-led growth it comes from a very different ideology, and then product marketing, like I said, it's really just understanding like who you are, how you sell, what you sell, right? Like it's completely different. So I mean, like, I think, if you ask me, I think the world is definitely moving towards a product-led world. Like, I think in the past, enterprise companies used to request demos, and then there'd be like, for example, like a simple example is I once wanted to get a demo of Salesforce. There is no freaking way for you to sign up for Salesforce. You have to first get on a call with somebody who's kind of like he's like a pre-SDR, like to just get your information. And then you have to get to an SDR, and you have to talk to an account executive. Then you have to talk to an implementation executive to be able to finally get a 2-week demo, right? And that's a very, very long cycle. Like, I lost my interest, right then. I was like, that's too damn slow, right? The world is moving fast. And so I think product-led allows, basically businesses to be able to get the user to that, to understand the product, like, and just cut through all the bullshit, right? And I think that trend is only going to grow. And there's going to be more things, like product-led sales is already coming up. It's probably going to be a product-led marketing sometime. There's going to be a product-led customer support. So I think that's definitely growing. But yeah, I think like in terms of advancements and everything, I think like the fundamentals still remain the same. Just help out users, understand your personas, reach to them where they are, just catch up on the trends and everything. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you mentioned you're working on a course as well. So, and you recently, did some, let's say, you created some buzz as well. There is a website, where people can go and, sign up for it. I did. So please talk about what is it about and, what's next for you. Please mention the website as well and everything.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So for me, it was like, because I've been in marketing for about 10 years, like over many, many years, there was a lot of people who reached out to me saying that, hey, how do you, get these roles? How do you build your career in marketing and everything? And like, as much as I want to help everybody, you can't like get on calls pro bono for like 10 people every week. And like, it's just too much of a time commitment. So I basically created a course for marketers to, help them to build their careers in tech. And it's really just, I think the goal with the course is really to help marketers, enter a global level, be high in demand, and to be able to choose opportunities versus the other way around, versus the employers choosing them, right? And that's essentially the core of the course. Like it's really, there's a framework that I've created, which basically goes into all of those things to be able to get you to that place. I've been lucky in a way that over the last couple of years, I've never really had to apply for any jobs. They've come to me and, and I've had the opportunity to really choose who I want to work with, right? And that's a wonderful position to be in because it helps you reduce your, at least like helps you find the right fit, right? So, so the course is early stage. It's on earlystagemarketer.com. And of course, like because my experience comes from an early stage marketing background, that's why I chose early stage marketer.com. The course is launching very, very soon. If you join the waitlist on the website, you'll get an early bird discount when it's announced. But yeah, that's the plan with the course.
Wonderful. Madhav Bhandari, thank you so much for your time and we wish you all the best for your future projects. Thank you for your time again because you've been very generous.
Yeah, it was wonderful speaking with you to keep connected.